Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Inked Reader. My name is Eva and today I am finishing 2 years down the line my shelf TBR game, if you want. I had 24, well technically a couple were empty, but then I had other places that I kind of swapped them with those shelves that were empty. And then every month I would go through my shelf, all the unread books, and there are a couple of rules here and there, but mostly I would read every book on that, attempt to read every book on that shelf that was unread. And yes, it's been 2 years now. We got to the last shelf, which is the blue one here. I'm gonna show you in a second. And it's over, guys. I can't believe it's over. It feels bittersweet. I'm gonna change my plans for 2024. Stay tuned for when that video is coming up, probably in December at some point. Yeah, here we go, guys. We are at the last shelf, which is the blue books shelf, one of the blue books shelf. And I do have a lot of unread books on there. There is no way in December, with how busy I've been lately, I can read even probably half of those that are unread, but despite that, I'm gonna try my best to read as many as possible. I will have Fairy Loot unboxings at some point on my channel up, and those books from November Fairy Loot will also go on my TBR. So because it's such an important month, let's start with the books and then I'm gonna go into my TBR for the comics. I'm gonna shift the camera so you can actually look at the shelf. Okay guys, so this is the shelf. It's mostly light blue to greenish bluish books, and I'm gonna show you the ones I read. Like, I'm just gonna go through the shelf, but before let me remove Galadriel and Rick and my Vespa. Is it a Vespa? I don't know. Clearly I don't know much about these things, but it's a friend gift. Okay, let's go from here. So this is King Rising, book number 3 in the PC Picard trilogy, but I'm not here up to this point. I didn't read book number 2, I didn't get around to, so I don't have to read this. One of the rules, if you're new, was if I'm not up to that book in the series, I don't have to read it. And then we've got Pretty Girls. I've not read this one, and I'm actually very curious to read a Slaughter book. That's a weird surname. Burning Water, K.A. Tucker, one of the few romance reader I actually enjoy reading from. Didn't read that one, so I might read this one. We'll see. I'm not very much in mood for romance, to be fair. Lila, YA fantasy. I have no idea. I have not read it. I'll read a synopsis and let you know. So we'll have to read that one. Another one I picked up from the charity shop, I believe. They got those small things. This is a winner of a Booker Prize, so I'm actually tempted to read these. I picked it up because I was generally curious to read this. Chase the Dark. This is another one I picked up ages and ages ago when I was in my urban fantasy new adult phase. Not sure if it's actually new adult or YA, but I figured it out. I've not read this one. And one that I will definitely get around to read is this World of Kagan, Theonid War Story. This is a standalone epic fantasy that so many people have loved and praised, and so yeah, I'm gonna read this month. Okay. This came with a Fairy Loot as an addendum, an additional book, An Arrow to the Moon. I did read another book by this author. I didn't love the book, so hopefully we will see if I get around to this. I did read The Midnight Lie, so I don't have to read this one. Oh, another one that I really want to read because it feels like Christmassy. Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. Yeah, this one is happening. I Let You Go, another thriller I've never read and it's quite popular. Found in a charity shop. I need to read that one. One Dark Throne. Is this? I don't know. I think this is book number 3. Actually, yeah, I think this is the 3rd book in the series, so I don't have to read this one, but I'll check. Sally Rooney, I don't feel like it this month, but we will see. Maybe I'll get around to it. Beautiful World, Where Are You? Never read one of her books before. We will see. We will see if this month I feel like reading it. The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. I read this one. Look at the pages. Unfortunately, I didn't love the book, but the cover is so good. Bloody Rose, I've read. A Man Called Ove. I've not read, so I might pick this up. Another gift of a friend, I believe, The Librarian. This is a historical fiction, I believe. Not read this one. All the rest I've read. Lux series I've read. I want to reread these because it was so entertaining, but we will not now. I won't do any rereads now. House in the Cerulean Sea I've read and loved, absolutely. So yeah, not gonna read this one because I've read it. The Angel's Game, I've read the whole quartet, so I read this one by Zafon. And the last one, another historical fiction I actually read, is The Nightingale. So most of those I read, apart from a couple which I'm not up to that point in the series. All the rest will need to be read. Now, while I give me 1 second while I read the synopsis, I must say that the Fairy Loot of this month will take priority, at least the adult one, and a special edition that I bought. So I don't know how many of those we'll read, but we will see. Okay, so the first one I picked up was The Librarian. I picked up from the stack, I mean, and this is a historical fiction taking place in 1958 about this Sylvia. Sylvia is fresh from one of the new post-war library schools, and now she moves to this small town and accepts a job as a local librarian for a school, and the kind of, you know, the goal is to spark the passion for literature in the children again after the war. And while she starts this job, she also gets involved with the married GP of this small town, and she gets to know his daughter, and she kind of get involved in a lot of local drama, if you want. So I believe it's like a historical fiction, but with some literature fiction like mostly prevalent in it, and you know, it's blurred by the times, Philip Pullman and the Daily Mail, so I don't know what to expect. I'm not personally someone who, when he hears, oh, this is a book about a librarian or a book about, you know, a bookshop, I don't get overly excited, apart from The Shadow of the Wind. That is a good one. By general, it's not like a buzzword for me. However, I've not read a historical fiction in a very long time, so I feel like maybe this month is a good one to pick up one. I'm just gonna pop them behind me, okay? Don't mind me. A movie came out with Tom Hanks, didn't it? And all I know is this is about this grumpy man, and I just don't know anything else. I know it's a literature fiction about this grumpy man that kind of picks up fights with everybody, but I guess also it's about this man who's alone and is reaching the, you know, the latter stage of his life and having to deal with that. We will see. I'm curious to read these so that I can watch the movie. Then I do have Beautiful World, Where Are You? I was just, okay, the hype got to me. I wanted to read one of hers. I know that she writes slice of life, but it's her writing what the most, you know, people are attracted to, and how she portrays the experience of being human in modern times. All I know about this is about these 4 people. It's kind of couples where they are going through stuff in their life and they kind of meet and they're trying to have relationships, but those are not running smoothly. There are a lot of issues, personal issues, and in them trying to connect. I don't know anything else about these. We will see. We will see, because I don't know if I'm in the mood for Christmas for such a book, but we'll figure out. I'll figure out when the time comes. Okay, the next one is a thriller that I owned for maybe half a decade, if not more, actually. I Let You Go. All I know if this is about this woman who something tragic happens on a November night, and she decides to move, kind of isolate herself in a small remote town or in a cottage, but her past is catching up to her despite her trying to kind of start again in life and have a new life. We will see what I think about it. I know that's a divisive book where some people loved what actually happened, some people hated it, but we will see. I tend to not like a thriller when I can guess what's going on from the start. So let's see if she can surprise me. Then the next one I will try to prioritize just because this author makes me happy. And this is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. The cover does remind me a lot of Under the Cerulean Sea. I love that they use this kind of style. And I know this is a standalone fantasy. On the back it says, from master storyteller TJ Klune comes a life and death love story. A man who lives to help the dead meets a man who died, then learn how to live. From the actual synopsis, I know that this is about this man who dies. The Grim Reaper comes and pick him up, and then someone else is supposed to come, you know, help him cross over. But despite this man not having the best of life and spending most of his life working, now that it's ending, he doesn't want it to end. So he does get a chance to have to wait 7 days, live a life in 7 days before he has to actually crossover and die, and he takes the chance. It just sounds, I don't know what to expect, but I know because it's TJ Klune, it's gonna be full of hopefully humor, but also warm and touching messages we will see about life and death. Looking forward to that. The next one, I just know it's a potentially retelling of Romeo and Juliet, and it's about these two kids that meet in school and their families have some grievances with each other, so their families are at war and they kind of fall in love. I don't know anything else about this one. We will see if I get around to it. It does have a very pretty cover, and I did read something else by her, which was, I'll tell you right now, she wrote, oh come on, what did she write? It's magic realism, wasn't it? Oh, is it? Oh, The Astonishing Color After. I've read this one and I found it okay, but I didn't love it, so we will see. Okay, it's time for me to read This World of Kagan. I'm actually in the mood of high fantasy lately, and so this comes at perfect time. All I know about this standalone epic fantasy is that you follow a son and his mother who are descendant of these very famous warrior dynasty, and they've been living now in peace, kind of, you know, keeping enemies at bay for decades because of their renowned fighting skills. Now things have been quite quiet, however there is a new threat coming, and as the son, who was just 14 years old, I believe, he wants to kind of demonstrate that he is as good as a fighter as his ancestors were. His mother will also have to pick up again this war after she kind of gave up on it when she became a mother, to defend her son and their country. We will see what this come up to be. I am a bit scared of the hype because I know that I tend to dislike or like just find a lot of very popular books, but we will see with that. I do have a feeling that if a book can stand up to the hype, it's World of Kagan. Now, I would have loved to read the synopsis of this, but I decided somehow many years ago to pop a sticker on it for whatever reason. Silly me. I just know that from the back, because it's kind of, you know, this one is cover, so it just starts from the middle of a synopsis, which is quite confusing. I know that this is urban fantasy. It sounds pretty sassy and humoristic from the back, but you follow this girl. She has to take the fall for someone else's crimes, and there are these two demons that are kind of trying to get her in bed and in trouble, something of the sort. So I'm expecting like a new adult romantic urban fantasy, hopefully with some kick-ass action scenes and with some good banter between the characters and like humoristic side and dialogues and stuff like that. I've not read a urban fantasy in ages, and I miss it. I used to read tons of it, so we will see if this sparks back my love for urban fantasy. I don't have a synopsis for this. I just looked on the back and there are just praises. Zero idea, but you know what? I'm gonna go into this blind. I just know that it's an international #1 bestseller. It's winner of a Booker Prize. It's a title I've heard before. I know it's quite probably old, but it's so well praised that people actually took the time to actually write a proper review, not just one sentence review. I know that sometimes, you know, it's a whole review and then, you know, publishers just take up one sentence to blur a book. But anyway, it's a good sign. I'm gonna read this. I believe it's historical fiction, but I might be wrong. I have no idea. We will find out. Okay, the next one sounds eerily familiar with another YA fantasy I used to read back in the days. Lila. This is about this girl that has no recollection of her name, of her past. She just knows that she needs to find this guy called Gabriel, and then on her search for Gabriel, she meet Jonah. Jonah is a vampire, and turns out this Gabriel is actually a rogue angel. So again, they go on this journey of finding out who Lila is, why she needs to find these people. There is a love triangle. I don't know. This definitely sounds like a YA, but I did pick this up because someone highly praised this one. So we will see. Worst case scenario, I didn't have it and donated to a family that will like it more. Kay Tucker, Burying Water. I believe it's a series, but don't quote me on this. Now, the thing with her is that she writes amazing romances, but also her books are generally well written, but also they always have a bit of a darker side. So it's a romance where usually the protagonists have gone through what I would describe probably as hell. I have read another quartet by her and really enjoyed it. And in this one, you follow this young woman who is left for dead in the woods in Oregon, but actually she does survive. And when she wakes up, she doesn't have any recollection of who she is, what's her name, a bit of like a reminder of this one, but the only thing she has on her body that kind of can tell who she is this small mark. So she renames herself Water because of these markings that she has on her body, and she's taken in by this kind old lady. But there is this neighbor who is a bit shady that she thinks she knows, but she can't put together who he is or why she feels like she knows it. And then at the same time there is Jesse. Jesse is this guy who wishes for her to never regain her memory. We don't know why, and at the same time he's tempted to have her, like, kind of get to know her, get closer to her, but he knows he shouldn't. So I have no idea what's going on here. It does sound twisted a bit, and I am actually looking forward to reading these because I know it's just not romance, cliche romance. I know that she always puts deep layers in her stories and explores trauma, and a lot of, again, her protagonists have gone through a lot of trauma, so it's usually this kind of relationship that are slow building as well. Really enjoyed the other books by her, so I might read a romance this month. We will see. And the last one I've got here is Kevin Slaughter, Pretty Girls, which is about this girl whose older sister disappeared years ago, and they never found her, and now years after, another girl has disappeared, and kind of our main protagonist thinks that it's similar to what happened to her sister, so she goes on this journey of finding out the truth. I've heard this is a very graphic thriller, which are my favorite kind of thrillers. I like when it gets almost to, the realm of horror in a sense. So yeah, looking forward to actually a good thriller. I might pick this up, although it's definitely not Christmassy. But yeah, guys, this is it for my last shelf. I just feel so, I don't know, bittersweet of finishing this TBR series, but I'm also looking forward to changing things. So it was about time. If you've been here the whole 2 years, by any miracle, let me know in the comments down below. I would just love to know if you've followed the journey through the shelves. But all the videos are on my channel, I believe. And yeah, stay tuned to what's gonna happen in 2024. But now let's move to the comics. Okay, so for the comics, I wanna end up the year with a massive TBR. I premise that I might not get around to read all of those, but I'm gonna try my best, and we will see how many of those I can. Now, I am aware that Berserk has come out, as well as Monstress, the last volumes, and I do want to finish the year with those two. So these are two that I've yet to have in my hands. I don't have them. I still have to purchase them. I will try to purchase them in December, and if I come in time, I will read, I believe it's the number eight of Monstress. This is a steampunk, epic, high fantasy, grimdark story, and you follow a bunch of characters, but our main protagonist is Micah. Micah, she is called the half-wolf, and she is part of his race, the Arcanics, who have been at war with humans before. The war has ended now due to unforeseen circumstances. Something massive happened that put an end to it. But then these factions, so humans and Arcanics, have kind of never really mixed together. When you start the first volume, humans and Arcanics, the tensions are rising again, so there is a possibility of another war incoming, and you follow Micah having to navigate the war, but also trying to navigate her own history, her own past, and what's happening with her, because her mother has disappeared under weird circumstances. She was looking for this artifact that has a lot of relevance for Micah and her condition, without spoiling anything, and so her mother disappeared, died potentially, and so Micah is on the lookout of answers to what happened to her mother, what is this artifact, and what is inside of her. I'm just gonna leave it there. And it's a slow start because it's just such a amazing and yet difficult to understand world building. But once you understand how it works, once you get attached to the characters, Monstress being one of the best things I've read this year. I love Monstress, so I need to read the next volume. No idea when we're gonna ever get another volume after these. Anyway, and then there's Berserk. Berserk is the GOAT. Berserk has gifted me so many emotions, some horrible, some hopeful, some heartbreaking, some joyful. So I do want to finish Berserk, and at least the Kentaro Miura part, because then unfortunately passed after writing the end of the Fantasia arc. So I'm gonna do this. It's time for me to finish Berserk. Berserk, if you have not heard of it by any chance, probably if you're watching like a TBR for comics you have, but if you haven't, it's a grim dark story, and in the first volume you are thrown into these horrific world, and you follow Guts, our main protagonist. At the point you're thrown in the middle of a story, and then you kind of go back and then you'll see what happens after. The first volume, Guts has been, has been through hell and is now trying to kind of navigate this corrupt world, and he's this immensely powerful yet solitary and deeply flawed and hurt main protagonist warrior that has a massive sword. Then it's unbeatable when you start the story. And so yeah, you get to see then how he became Guts, the famous Guts, and what happens to him after and the people around him. It's Berserk. Now, I do have a stack of things that I currently have with me, but I did put an order up, so I'm gonna do probably a unboxing. In that order, there's gonna be Doro and Day Dark. Both of these are by the same mangaka. Now Doro I need to read volume 10, I believe, after. Doro is, both are horror, but while Doro is more like dystopian, dark fantasy, Day Dark volume 2, which I have to read, it's a sci-fi. Now focusing on Doro for a second. So Doro is the story of this man who has been turned into a lizard, and he has no recollection of his past. In this world there are dark sorcerers that use human bodies to make experiments and create demons and monsters. So he just knows that he used to be human and he's not anymore, and he needs to find out what happened to him. This mind, the mind of this woman, it's the best. Like, I love her style, how gritty, dark and humoristic her stories are. Day Dark I've just read one before, and it's about this guy whose bones are magic. So basically people want to kill him because if they consume his bones, they will be granted any wish they have. So if you wanna, I don't know, become the emperor of the universe, if you consume his bones, you get to do that. And so of course everybody wants him dead, and so he's on the run constantly, and he's got this sort of backpack which is also a skeleton, and it's his best friend, and it's madness. A lot of this, I've just read one volume of these compared to 10 of Doro. There are similarities in those, but they are their own majestic thing. So yeah, I'm gonna continue with a couple of volumes. I also want to continue on with Hell Paradise. These are 13 volumes long, grimdark fantasy series where you follow this bunch of criminals that are given a choice. Either they are executed or they can go on this island and try to retrieve the elixir to eternal life for the emperor or shogun, where there was, I don't remember. They decide to go, of course. The issue is that no one has ever come back from this island, and there are monsters. There is a plot of what is this elixir of life, what are these monsters, what happened to the people before us that came here. It's mysterious, it's engaging, I love the monsters and the art. I've been loving it. So I need to read volume 5, I believe. And then another series that I need to continue on is Vinland Saga. I'm gonna try and read a volume of Vinland Saga. I am up to book 7 with these. I need to check with arc. I'm in the second arc for sure, but Vinland Saga, at the beginning you follow Thorfinn, whose father is killed in front of him by an enemy. It's a Viking enemy. The father also used to be a Viking warrior, but he retired and now he's forced back in the war, and when he's trying to resist this, he gets killed. And so Thorfinn actually is kidnapped by the guy who killed his father and raised by him. And so he is raised by the idea of one day I'll be as strong, if not actually more strong than you, so I can kill you and avenge my father. And that's the beginning. You got this guy who's fighting for the enemy, for the guy who killed his father, but he's not strong enough at the beginning to beat this guy up. And this guy, the Askeladd that plays the bad guy in this, it's one of the most interesting evil guys I've seen in manga in a long time. So yeah, loving Vinland Saga from the the historical element. It's a historical fiction, it's not a fantasy, from the combat scenes, but also the depth of these characters and how much they come through the pages. Okay, I believe that order, that's all I'm gonna read. There are a couple more things I put in there, but I'm not gonna read those this month. I'm gonna wait for 2024. So then I am gonna read a pickup series, something that I read as a palette cleanser between more heavy stuff. I want to continue on with Rick and Morty. I am not sure because they don't bloody number the volume. If I'm up to this volume, this is Rick and Morty. It's just like reading an issue is like watching an episode. So I'm gonna try and read these. If it's not these, I'm gonna catch up with the next volume I'm up to. I think I read the first 5 volumes in the series. I am gonna continue on finally with One Piece. I need to read volume 10. This is the volume that comes after the very popular volume number 9. So yeah, I need to continue on and see what happens and what Luffy does. This is One Piece. Everybody knows what One Piece is. You follow pirates and they are hilarious, and they are also the sweetest human, fake, not real humans I've ever met in my life, and they just go on adventure in the search and the pursuit treasure that will make Luffy, our main protagonist, the king of all pirates. So yeah, it's One Piece. The next one, I'm gonna show you 2 volumes. I'm not gonna read 2 volumes because that would be crazy, but I don't know which one I need to read. I've done a video before recommending my favorite vampire novels, and I did say in my book TBR that I do miss like reading urban fantasy. Now, how I got to love and know urban fantasy is through Anita Blake. And I want to continue on with the series, but it's been ages that I've not read the first volume of Anita Blake, the first book of Anita Blake. I might eventually one day do a reread, but then I remember that I have the graphic novel of Anita Blake. These are not all translated into a graphic novel format. I believe I just did the first 3 books or something like that. So I need to figure out, I think the Laughing Corpse is the first one. Yes, so I think this one is the first one. But if I'm wrong, I'm gonna read these instead. So one is called The Laughing Corpse and the other one is Guilty Pleasures. I believe Guilty Pleasure is the name of the first book. I'm so confused, I don't know. I'm gonna figure out which one of the 2 I have to read and just refresh my memory on the Anita Blake story. Now, Anita Blake, she is an official, a marshal in USA, and she's the only one in her state, I believe, who can hunt vampires. Now, vampires in this society have been accepted. They are part actually of almost of the elite society, most of them, not all of them, but they are accepted. They are among humans. There are regulations that they have to follow in order to live among humans, and if someone does not follow the regulations, then Anita is usually hired by the state, I believe, or even probably privately, to punish those vampires that do not abide to the law. And it's just her kicking asses. She's such an amazing protagonist in the first 8 books before it goes down in orgy style, and the writing just gets bad, unfortunately. The first 8 books are full of, you know, there is the element of finding out or solving a crime, so it does feel like almost like a thriller criminal investigation, but at the same time you got this romance, very slow romance side. You got Anita navigating her life among these very pretty monsters and killing brutally a lot of bad guys. So yeah, I will read one of these. I need to refresh my memory on Anita Blake, and then I'm gonna continue on with Spy Family. Spy Family is a series of sometimes I want to drop, sometimes I feel like I just want to watch the anime, just don't continue on, so I don't know what I'm gonna do, but let me try volume 5. And this is about this fake family. This guy who's a spy needs to put together this fake family in order to infiltrate a prestigious school, so he needs a fake wife and a fake daughter, and to send the daughter inside the school so he can access certain people in the population that would not necessarily be accessible otherwise. And yeah, he is a spy. The wife turns out to be an assassin and he does not know, and the little girl they end up adopting is a telepath, so she can read their minds, so she knows who's who, but she knows that they don't know. It's just fun and cute, but although I really like the art, it's not necessarily something that I would read. Just use a bit of the art. I didn't show you the art of anything, did I? I'm just gonna show you the Anita Blake one, just because it's Anita Blake. Look at this. It's a Marvel comic, by the way. If you are into urban fantasy, you have to try the Anita Blake story. The first 8 to 9 books. 10 books. Anyway, Spy Family, continue on, although I'm still on, I don't know if I'm gonna finish the series manga or I'm just gonna eventually get around to the anime, and then a couple of things by, well, all the rest is by Fujimoto. So I'm gonna read a couple of collection of short stories by him. I'm gonna read Buddy stories from Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man, I've read the first part of Chainsaw Man that's out. These are just short stories based on that. Oh, wait, it's not a manga. Okay, I was kidding. I didn't know this. These are stories. This is actually a book. Okay, I've got too many things on my TBR this month, so let me do these in January. Perhaps, I had no idea. It's structured like a manga. It's a manga, but inside, I didn't know that. There are a couple of illustrations, but it's a story. Okay, this I'm gonna look out for it in the next year. Scratch that, it's not happening. I'm gonna read two things by Fujimoto. 2226, which is a collection of short stories of things he wrote before Chainsaw Man. So these are just random short stories, and I loved the other collection he did with short stories. And finally, to finish this video and my TBR, I'm gonna read volume 8 of I always do this, Fire Punch. I'm finishing this series. I have been struggling, enjoying it, and then at times find myself almost disgusted by these series, so it's time for me to finish Fire Punch and move on in 2024. And this story, it's at the beginning, it's a dystopian grim dark fantasy, and you follow this guy who's with his sister. They have special powers that can regenerate body parts, and they are keeping with this power their village alive after the world has been frozen over by another human with powers, in this case, you know, to create climate disaster. And so yeah, they are keeping their village alive. Humanity is on the brink of extinction. Things are horribly bleak, and it's just a devastating world to be in. And then something tragic happens in their small village, and things just spiral down for the worse. And you might ask yourself, Eva, it's, as a premise, it's already very shitty. Yeah, things get way shittier than that. This series is a bit odd, but overall, it's an experience as a series, and as someone who likes Fujimoto's mind where this is going, despite me not loving this as much as I loved Chainsaw Man, I still really respect the guy, and I still want to see how he concludes one of his first works, or like an early series than Chainsaw Man. So yeah, finishing these, guys. And that's it. That is a massive TBR compared to my actual time that I will have in December. But I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna use the few days I got off between the Christmas period and so on to actually cram in a lot of reading if I can. So that I do also want to take time to redo my bookshelves, and I want to take it easy, so I might not film these like me redoing my shelves unless you really guys want to see it, but I might just show you the final product basically in January. But yeah, I'm gonna try prioritize some of the books and some of these manga, definitely. Thank you for watching. Let me know what's on your TBR for the end of the year, and leave your recs down below. If you're new, I would love for you to join the community. It's a small community, and just subscribe and chat with me in the comments down below. That's all I ask. But yeah, guys, take care of yourself. Thank you for watching again, and I'll see you next time. Ciao!